hello, Mr. Laurinaitis. Sorry, hello, Mr. Laurinaitis, sir. I'm very good, thanks. How are you? Yeah, I was just listening to the quarterly conference call. Boy, are we raking it in, yeah? Oh, I mean, record profits and not as good as you would think. Right. Yeah, I see. Okay, really? I mean, I just signed a new deal 2 months ago. I mean, I just had a match at WrestleMania. Yeah, I mean, Vince told me personally that he loved my work. Is this a Nick Khan thing? You know, we're in the middle of a global pandemic. I see. Right, well, thanks for being straight with me, Johnny. I appreciate the call. And if the financial situation gets any better, then please don't hesitate to call. Johnny? Mr. Ace? Hello? Wankers.
Anyway, I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 most shocking WWE releases of the pandemic era. Join us. Number 10, Andrade. Unlike many who were let go by WWE during the pandemic, Andrade actively courted his release, which he received in March of 2021 after initially having his request denied. It was a bold decision to make since his fiancée Charlotte Flair was one of the top acts in the company and he was reportedly earning several $1 million per year. But it wasn't about the money for Andrade, who was dismayed at the direction that his career was going in. His last match had been on the October 12, 2020 episode of Raw, a loss to Angel Garza, where he and Zelina Vega were attacked by The Fiend and Alexa Bliss in the post-match. Vega was controversially fired a month later, while Andrade sat in catering and waited to be used. And waited. And eventually got sick of waiting and approached WWE management about letting him try his luck elsewhere. Considering WWE's ongoing quest to find a new Latino star and Andrade's relationship with Flair, it's somewhat amazing that WWE failed to capitalize on his obvious talent and were happy to eventually show him the door. Number 9, Keith Lee. The potential of Keith Lee truly was, and still is, limitless. A sensation on the independent scene before being signed to a developmental deal, Lee was a super agile, super heavyweight who had a genuine connection with the audience. He was given a great push on the Black and Gold brand, winning the NXT North American and NXT Championship, becoming the first person to hold both simultaneously. Called up during the first few months of the pandemic, Keith was in the WWE title mix for a bit and had a championship match with Drew McIntyre, though the lack of a live crowd made it hard to tell how over he was with the main roster audience. His progress was stalled in early 2021 due to a COVID-19 diagnosis, followed by heart inflammation issues, keeping him off television for several months. When he returned in the summer, he did so with a new look, entrance theme, and name. Old Bearcat meandered in the mid-card for a while before being let go with 17 others, including significant other Mia Yim. What a waste. Number 8, Mike Kyoda. Yes, it wasn't just the wrestlers that were receiving the call, but also office workers, production staff, writers, and referees. And that includes Mike Kyoda, one of WWE's most recognizable officials ever, who was given his P45 during the first round of pandemic-era cuts. Kyoda, who had been the man in the middle during some of WWE's most famous and important matches, had been with the company since 1989. Experienced, well-liked, and by all accounts reliable, it was shocking to see his name amongst the list of those released. It was also a huge surprise to the man himself, as he stated during a post-release appearance on Talk Is Jericho. Not only had he been out rehabbing for 6 months following surgery, but he just signed a new and improved contract the month prior. He wasn't even given a reason outside of cost cutting, which didn't seem to wash with him since he wasn't exactly a superstar pulling in 6 figures. Kyoda has since popped up in AEW for a couple of matches and answers questions on the Monday Mailbag podcast. Number 7, Nia Jax. Something of a lightning rod for controversy due to her outspoken nature and reputation for at times being unsafe in the ring, the release of Nia Jax was nonetheless a surprising one. Formerly a model, Jax was trained from scratch at the WWE Performance Center and came to prominence while wrestling on the NXT brand. With her size and lineage, she's a cousin of The Rock's, did you know, she was always going to get a decent push, and Nia captured the Raw Women's and Women's Tag Team titles during a 5-year run hampered by injuries and a couple of unfortunate in-ring incidents with Becky Lynch, Kairi Sane, and Charlotte Flair. After her team with Shayna Baszler was broken up in the fall of 2021, Jax requested some time off to work on mental health related issues. It was during this sabbatical that WWE decided to axe her, which drew criticism from even her fiercest detractors. According to Nia, she was also told that budget cuts were the reason for her release. Post-wrestling, she plans to start a business and grow some cool stuff on her farm. Probably potatoes. Number 6, Rusev and Lana. Perhaps the most shocking name in the list of those cut during the first round of firings in April 2020 was Rusev. The Bulgarian Brute's WWE career was, regrettably, a story of mixed opportunities. After a promising start and a cracking feud with John Cena, Rusev never quite managed to penetrate the main event, though there were intermittent glimmers of hope that he would. He was a performer that fans watched get better and better over the years as he worked hard to improve his body, look, and in-ring performance. His last major feud, where he was cucked into oblivion by Bobby Lashley and wife Lana, seemed to be somebody's way of sending a message about his true standing in the pecking order, and he was gone not too long after. The ravishing Russian lasted a little over a year longer than her hubby, though her eventual release was also a shocking one. Possessing the look that WWE covets in their female stars and also working tirelessly to improve all facets of her act, she was an asset that the company could have used in many different ways, but it was deemed that her time had come and gone. Number 5, Karrion, Kross, and Scarlett. While Rusev and Lana were let go a year apart after enjoying a pretty decent WWE tenure, all things considered, Karrion, Kross, and Scarlett were not so lucky. They got 86'd at the same time after the company had so badly bungled their move from NXT to the main roster. Kross, a former 2-time NXT champion, wasn't given a chance on Raw following his call-up. He was quickly jobbed out to Jeff Hardy in his debut, had Scarlett taken away from him, and was given entrance gear straight out of the Basham Brothers reject pile. It was a perplexing way to present someone who had been talked about as a potential future world champion, though he did receive something resembling a push afterwards and scored victories over Hardy, Keith Lee, and Ricochet before being relegated to the lowly main events. Scarlett never actually appeared on main roster television and was conspicuous by her absence. Turns out she had busted one of her breast implants while wrestling Shotzi Blackheart in a dark match months before her release. Number 4, Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy's troubled past with substance abuse issues was well known by WWE before they re-signed him and brother Matt in 2017. The charismatic enigma had been fired for the first time in 2003 after failing a drug test and refusing to attend rehab, while during his second spell he also fell afoul of the wellness policy twice. Post-WWE, he was arrested when feds raided his home and found a host of drugs, and he was famously out of his mind when he was supposed to wrestle Sting at Victory Road 2011. He'd struggled during his latest WWE comeback too, twice getting arrested for public intoxication and driving while impaired. Despite that, WWE stuck with him and foolishly incorporated his addiction woes into a storyline. The straw that broke the camel's back, however, was when Jeff acted erratically during a house show main event, drawing suspicion from his superiors and getting him kicked off the tour. Ordered to attend rehab or else, Hardy once again declined and was promptly given his marching orders. The extended Hardy family all claimed that Jeff was fine following the bizarre situation, with some speculating that WWE may have jumped the gun in their decision to cut bait. Number 3, Braun Strowman. The release of Braun Strowman adds fuel to the theory, well, my own theory, that Vince McMahon died several years ago, and his new animatronic body has since been remote controlled by someone in the basement of Titan Towers. How else can you explain him willingly letting go such an impressive physical specimen, who not only looked like everything that Vince wants in his main eventers, but also someone who worked so bloody hard to improve every aspect of his game? Braun was a genuine WWE success story, someone who came from the outside world, was made and molded in their system, and went from silent muscle man to credible world champion. The monster among men, who had struggled with mental health issues in the years prior to his release, had beaten Shane McMahon in a cage match at WrestleMania, and was involved in the WWE title match at WrestleMania Backlash just weeks before Johnny Ace wished him well in his future endeavors. This was one release that really made it feel as though nobody on the card, save for a Teflon few, were 100% safe. Number 2, William Regal. William Regal had been employed by WWE for over 20 years, having originally signed with the company in 2000 after overcoming serious addiction issues to come back stronger than ever. He'd had his ups and downs, from some debilitating health issues to wellness policy failures, but always came out of it on the other side and successfully transitioned from an in-ring performer to one of the main men in WWE's developmental system. Working at the Performance Center and as an on-screen authority figure for NXT, Regal also did much behind the scenes and frequently went on fruitful scouting missions. A wealth of knowledge and a well-respected person within the industry, it was assumed by most that Sir William would be a lifer, especially since he was such good friends with Triple H, dating back to their mid-90s WCW days. Well, there's no such thing as a lifer in WWE anymore, and Regal was one of the game's many NXT allies cut in early January 2022. Following his release, testimonials poured in from the likes of Sasha Banks and Kevin Owens, who both spoke of the massive debt they owed the former Intercontinental Champion for helping them in their careers. Number 1, Bray Wyatt. Just weeks after Braun Strowman was given the old heave-ho, his old running buddy Bray Wyatt / The Fiend was released too. With Bray's release, no member of the Wyatt family, one of the most popular and influential groups of the last 20 years, remained in WWE. Since arriving on the main roster in the summer of 2013, the former Husky Harris had crafted 2 personas that saw him stand out as one of the most recognizable faces in the business. I mean, you're not going to forget a face like this anytime soon, are you? His WWE career was a bit all over the place, and Bray seemed equally capable of brilliance and madness, but he was a true team player, a good soldier who did what was asked of him regardless of how he may have felt it would end up. He was a constant fixture in major storylines and reportedly generated a fortune with Fiend-related merchandise. But none of that could save him from the sack after being employed there for 12 topsy-turvy years.